I want to make this a short review, spoiler free, so anyone can enjoy it. If you have read any Guy Gavriel Kay book in the past, especially this one, The Lions of Al-Rassan, let me know in the comments of what you thought about it. Is this your favorite book from Guy Gavriel Kay? Do you have a different favorite? I am just dying to know. This was my very first Guy Gavriel Kay book that I've ever read, and it has deeply, deeply touched me. This is, I can't remember another time where, on a technical sense, I can't think of anything to fault him in terms of world building. I was so drawn into not only the world that he's creating, but also the character work, and the plotting is just impeccable. And the prose is amazing. Like, just from all of those technical senses or technical points, I can't think of anything to fault. And I was just drawn into it. A couple little things to give a little bit of a non spoiler introduction to what it is and the kind of writing that he does in this work. And I'm pretty sure he does in some of these other ones. I'll show you a map. If that looks familiar, that's because it is basically Spain. You have that here, and you have the Mediterranean, kind of a loose representation of that there, and it's loosely based also on not the like the Moorish invasion of Iberia, of Spain, has happened, but also it's like this attempt of reconquest of Spain. And so we have the northern Jadites who represent the Christians ish. We have the Asherites, which are like the Jadites. There's a few different kingdoms on the north of Spain, or on the north of this peninsula. Peninsula. I don't know. You can see that there. The Jadites are on the north, and they kind of are like an analog to the early Christians. We have the Asherites, which are down below, which kind of live in these different city states, and we have the Kindath. Was that the name of the? Shoot, I haven't said these things out loud, but it's kind of like a Jewish. There's like merchants and doctors and scholars, you know, some of these Jewish analogs, which are, I think, the Cardath, or the, I better get this right. But anyway, it's very interesting because, there's a tension because of the history of the Jadites have been pushed back. And right now, this area is kind of, they have been in a golden age, but the last of the caliphs, or the, however you pronounce it, has been killed right in the prologue. And there's a little bit of tension, but they're able to go around from city to city, sort of, with a level of, you're not going to just get killed outright, even though, like, there's some areas where people can go and there's a little bit of mixing and that sort of thing. And I am just so enamored with this cast of characters that he has created from each of these different cultures and groups. Uh, I am just this first. I don't want to mention all of them, but we have right here in the front. We have this one would be from this lower, kind of the Muslim analog, which are in these lower regions. And he is the one who killed the last caliph, and they've kind of gone into this new stage of this new era in the lower areas there, in the southern areas. This one in the middle, she is such a dynamite, awesome character. She would be part of this Kardath kind of Jewish sort of culture. And she is the daughter of a physician, a world renowned physician, who is not practicing anymore because something awful has happened to him. And I am just dying to talk about it here, but I think you should find out for yourself. But he's world renowned, area renowned in all of these cultures. And she has taken that on. And this upper one is kind of a captain of the Jadites. And it just, because he does this, and if you're a fan of history, even if you're not super familiar of that time, because you can see some parallels, and you've maybe seen some movies, or you remember some history if you went over that in like social studies or something like that. It's like you already kind of know some of the background, even though it's a totally different thing. I think I heard that Guy Gavriel Kay's books, especially within this era when he wrote this book, is historical fiction with a quarter turn towards the fantastical. And you can see that here. I felt like I was reading something like a Ken Follett, but this was much more lyrical and almost poetic in its delivery. Might not be for everyone, but man, it just was like chocolate reading this. As far as fantastical elements, there's like a kid that can do slight sort of prophecy type stuff, but that's not really in the forefront of what is happening, but it is there. And it's like fantastical in the same way that like Robin Hood would be fantasy in some ways. It's kind of in within that same ballpark sort of thing. And I just thought it was fantastic. Probably my favorite book of the year as far as the best written book, and one that if I had to choose desert island books at this moment, it would definitely be in that 5 books or whatever it is that I would like to take with me. And I am just jonesing for more from this author. I'm so happy that he writes standalone novels like this, that I can just know that when I pick it up, I'm going to get the complete work. I know another one is coming out named Written on the Dark. I didn't know that until today, but it's absolutely jumped to the front of my anticipated reads books. I don't know if I'm going to do that before going into some of the older ones. I probably should maybe do it sort of in publication order. But man, what a wonderful, amazing story. If you like that sort of historical fiction vibe, but it has changed some things so it can take all these different liberties. It has tons of political, uh, there's political fragmentation within these different cultures and between these cultures. A lot of these characters, like I said, you can love different characters from these different cultures, even though sometimes they are taking part in these awful things that are happening. It has this element of where loyalties lie, whether it is for loyalties toward a king or their faith or something more personal, when they kind of mix and they get to know people that are different from them, and what kind of element that brings into things. And I thought this was just handled beautifully, just immaculately. Um, I do like a lost kind of golden age tale. I thought that this was one of the most bittersweet books I have ever read by definition. In that some of the sweet parts of it, I left the last 60 pages till today, about 60 to 80, somewhere around there, and I was reading some of it at work, and I was in at the office at work today, and during lunchtime I was reading, and I was starting to well up at around the 60 pages to the end mark, and I thought, well, this isn't going to do. I can't be crying at work, and that is not something that generally happens with me. I mean, it has happened, but it was just in terms of the sweet moments and having them so enmeshed. I don't know if that's the word, but when you have some of that bitterness to it as well, it just becomes such a complete, emotionally satisfying story. And it did have that. And I just if I was anyone else and had a little bit more of that kind of reaction, I could see a number of people shedding tears in this one. I thought it was just great. Again, it has some of that. It has tolerance versus fanaticism in terms of those interpersonal relationships between cultures and what has come before them. You know, we see this in a lot of books, but as far as getting that as a complete story in one great standalone, that involves all of those things and has characters and moments that you just are starting to go no 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 no, or yes 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 yes. It has both of those. Something that I do find very interesting is in a lot of books that have multiple POVs, you'll see from one end, uh, you'll see kind of something being brought up, and they go along a path, and you see, and then it bounces to another, and you see it go up, and then you start to see how it's going to converge. And it does do some of that, but more so it surprises you in an interesting way that I wonder if it's the rest of the way he does things in these books, where you'll kind of follow with one way, and then you'll see something brutal happen, or tragic happen, or whatever, something surprising. And then it will go to that. Like sometimes it'll be like, and then I'll give a fake one, and that's when Ben was before Ben got betrayed or shot in the head. That was a stupid example, but then it would go to the other side, and then it would do this full 10 15 pages leading to that moment where we already know that's about to happen, but rather than leading it both ways and then showing that, it leads it to a point where it's a complete surprise the first time you read it, but then you're reading that other end going towards it. And I thought that was an interesting device that I've seen sometimes, and he just did it so perfectly. I think this guy has something like 13 books or so. I'll double check after, but I have a new author that I'm going to be excited. I'm not in a rush to read all of these because I want to be able to stretch these out, because I know that they will be right up my alley if they are anything like this. I felt like I was reading like a Lawrence in Arabia, or something grand. Sometimes it was like a Braveheart, even though it was just this beautiful, lyrical, wonderful writing. And I just can't rave about it enough. As far as the finest works that I've read this year, it probably is amongst those, and certainly probably that's a terrible thing to say, but certainly probably my favorite thing that I've read this year, even though other things have touched me too, but not to the same emotional degree as this one has. So I can recommend it to anyone who likes that historical fiction with a slight turn towards the fantasy. Other things that had that sort of bittersweet feel, I think of something like Lonesome Dove. It is what comes to mind, where it feels like you've gone on such a journey with these characters, and there are bittersweet things that happen along the way. And so that is my recommendation for you. And I know a lot of people will be watching this maybe on April 1st. This is not an April Fool's joke to have you go read it and it's a stinker. It actually is great. So talk to you guys later. Bye.